Hello and welcome to the G10 Sports Show on Feck TV. Tonight we're going to speak to none other than Frankie Sheehan, the Munster legend and Ireland legend. Welcome to the show, Frankie.
Thank you very much, George, and in particular for those very kind words there.
Exciting week, or weekend it was with the Heineken Cup, Frankie. I know you were busy working away with Sky and the whole lot. How did the weekend go for you? Good on a Munster note, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, I think that's what makes the Heineken Cup so special, the fact that it's such a complicated system for the layman when you look at it, but all the different permutations adds to the excitement. And if people were following it, they could see that if Leinster, they had to get a bonus point against Exeter on Saturday night, and it was a cracking game of rugby. Everyone was thinking about how Leinster were going to take it to Exeter, but Exeter had different ideas and nearly went on to win that match, but it was a cracking game, and Leinster really gave it a great shot. But of course then we saw Ulster, who were looking for their home draw. They had their first away win ever down in Castra, which was a great win for them. And then of course the Munster game. Munster knew going into the game yesterday that it was totally in their hands whether they qualified or not, and they needed to win with a bonus point try, and they went out. And I was up there, I was doing the commentating with Sky, and the atmosphere was as good now as I can remember it in a long time. Munster haven't really hit the heights, I suppose, of recent years, and it was incredible, really. The crowd really got behind the team. There was controversy early on, of course. Batu, the back row for Racing Metro, stuck his knee there, and one of the lads on their head, I think inadvertently, of course. But he got sent off within 5 minutes, so they were on the back foot straight away. But credit to them, they stuck to their task, and Munster had 3 tries before half time, so people were wondering when it would come, and of course it came in the second half. They got 5 tries. Simon Zebo getting a hat trick. It was a great day, and Munster, of course, then by virtue of doing that, of course, knocked Leinster off the second best qualifying slot. So Leinster are now out, and Munster are in. So it was an absolutely great day.
Do you think the lads are happy to get one over Leinster?
Well, the interesting thing now, George, is that they're meeting up. A lot of the international guys were driving up last night to Dublin to meet up, and some of these guys could be rooming with their Leinster colleagues. And I was talking to a few of them, and we were kind of reminiscing about the times when I was involved in that camp, and the falseness that was involved. If Leinster did well, you'd be saying, "Oh, well done in the match, yeah, fair play to you,"
Yeah.
But you couldn't be telling more lies. You were kind of, or if they lost, you were, hard luck there, and you'd be very sympathetic, and vice versa. We'd have the crack now with the Leinster guys still, so I'm sure there was going to be a bit of crack there last night when they got up there.
Zebo was on fire, wasn't he? I keep listening on Sky, watching in the games. They really think he's one of those players that has a lot more to offer. But yesterday he really showed what he's made of, didn't he?
He did. I mean, I think the first try he was more or less giving the ball over the line. The second one, it was a great try. It was a really good individual try. And the third one, he's a great finisher, and he has this air of confidence about him, just bordering on cockiness, arrogance, a bit like your man George O'Callaghan used to play with Cork City. I don't know if you remember him, but
he's never that good.
I mean, he has it. But he has that type of X factor, which, I suppose, being involved in that management business myself, you're always looking to sell to clients that this guy has something special, and the way he goes out and he has that confidence, and the way he can back it up at times is great. So it was a great day for him and his family.
When you watch these games, Frankie, do you miss not playing, or has the media kind of softened the blow a bit?
It does, definitely, being involved. I mean, you're going up to Limerick and you're kind of getting a few bob for actually commenting and talking about it. I don't fall into the trap of saying I'm working because it's a labour of love and I love it. But certainly when they come out of the tunnel and you hear the crowd roar, there is something special about that nothing will ever replace. So you'd miss that side of it desperately, in every game. But there are other sides that you just wouldn't miss. I mean, you think of the day-to-day training and having to go up to Dublin now, and the first thing I'm sure Declan Kidney be saying to them this morning is, "Look, the Heineken Cup now is finished. Let's move on." And they're probably knocking lumps out of each other underneath some sort of rooking net that you have to be about 2 feet off the ground, and you get a belt of a stick if you're not. So it's that those parts I certainly don't miss. But yeah, I mean, I adored the game of rugby. I just loved it from the off when I first started playing it, and that whole collision side of it, the confrontation side of it. So I don't think that'll ever go away.
Sky Sports have really taken it to a new level, haven't they, with the rugby and the Heineken Cup. The coverage now, you can watch all the games on a Sunday, literally the way the Premiership is. It's brilliant, isn't it?
They do it extremely well, Sky. They have, they obviously get the best people involved, including myself. They go out of their way, but they're a good crowd to work for. They're very professional. They're very, they're commercial. They're different to other stations. They're about making money. They're about generating revenue, and they go up and they do it well. Interestingly, I went into the Sky truck after the match yesterday. And I walked into the Sky truck and all the screens were everywhere, and I saw one of the producers inside was a bit pale in the face, and he said, you missed that there, and I said, what? He said, the fellow who got sent off, the guy Batu, started hammering on the door, and they opened it. He said, I want to see the video, and barged his way in there, so they didn't know what to do, so they eventually just showed it to him anyway, and he calmed down, he was fine afterwards, but yeah, it was an interesting one, but no, they're a good crowd, lovely bunch of guys, and as I say, like it's they look after you very, very well.
Last week when you were commentating and O'Gara flicked out and kicked your man, do you be panicking when you're commentating and think, oh, I don't want to get him in trouble here, now I've got to cover his ass somewhere? Do you be backtracking?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I like the way you've warmed me up to this one anyway. and by the way, if he's watching this, it wasn't a kick, it was called a trip, I think, was it?
Yeah.
it was the most interesting trip I ever saw anyway, but it did extremely well to get 1 week. Yeah, I mean, that definitely, I mean, when that happened, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say here? And that is actually the beauty about CoCom. If you're sitting in a studio, it's a lot easier than a CoCom, because the studio, you've all the time in the world to think about what words you're going to do. But I mean, if Donegal O'Callaghan drop kicks Leo Cullen in the head, the commentators, oh my God, look at that, Frankie, what do you think of that? And you have to be there, and it's instant and it's in the moment. So I think I said something along the lines of, oh yeah, looks like Ronan had a bit of a rush of blood for that one, So I don't know, I haven't got a phone call yet off him, so it mightn't have been too bad anyway.
I spoke to Tony Cascarino recently, and he said something negative about Frank Lampard, and he said a couple of days later Frank Lampard rang him up, giving out, saying, oh, you shouldn't be speaking like this about me. Do you ever come across anyone like that, having a go at you over things you say on this?
I certainly have, and I don't mind. I guess I don't mind somebody having a go. When I was there as a player, there was definitely times you're very, very sensitive, and I understand it. The problem is that 90%, 95% of the things that most analysts will say are very, very positive, but you'll only hear back off the 5% of things that aren't. And in fairness, though, to Lampard in that particular instance, for him to pick up the phone and be direct with Cascarino, I think that there's a respect in that too. It's the other fellow who goes moaning about it in the background and not to your face. That's the problem, really. But I mean, you have to. I mean, people, I think when they retire, they realise that, and I've certainly realised that, if I don't give an opinion, if I don't give a valid opinion, I'm not going to be asked back by Sky or RT. You know what I mean? There's only so much you can talk guys up, but you gotta be balanced, and you gotta call it the way it is. And if it means that a guy didn't play a good game, and I manage some guys as well, and sometimes I have to come out and say he did that wrong or that was a bad play, and that's just part of it. And I explain that to these guys. So, and they understand it, but I can understand the sensitivity from being on both sides of it.
I really enjoy listening to you on the media, Frankie, but one of the main reasons I have you on today is your website, frontrow.ie. I've looked that up recently, been really impressed with what you're trying to do for the players. Can you shed a bit of light for people watching what you're doing for the lads in the rugby community? And I even seen Ruby Walsh's name down along the names of sports people you have.
Yeah, we have a sports management, athlete management arm to that. So mostly rugby players. We look after their A to Z of rugby playing, but we're always looking for other opportunities in different sports. And we look after all their commercial needs and every bit of the management side of it. We also have a sponsorship side, a marketing side, so anything from hospitality, sponsorship activation, in a lot of the sporting, rugby and all that side of things, we do a lot of that. And also then a celebrity sourcing. So if you want celebrity for your product launch, your event, your speaking engagement, we've got an extended list of over 1,000 people there that we can get. So it's great. We're doing a lot of business with a lot of the banks, a lot of big brands like Vodafone, Guinness, and all these guys. So it's great. We're getting a lot of repeat business, a lot of people coming back, and again, it's a type of work that I really enjoy. So it's a nice labour of love again.
I get a lot of stick on my show because I'm always looking for the welfare of the soccer players in Ireland at the minute, because I feel really that they're really struggling and they need some help. It looks like on the rugby side of things it's a lot different. People seem to be a lot more clued in, and there's a lot of help there for the younger players. Would I be right in saying that?
Well, I wouldn't be an expert in the soccer side of it in Ireland, but I do know in the rugby side of it. I mean, you can bring there is facility there. I know, I'm not sure in the soccer, but in the rugby there's an IRUPA, which is the Irish Rugby Union Players Association, and these guys are funded. They're self-funded, but they're also funded by the IRFU, and they have facilities and they have personnel involved in that organisation to help you to plan for your future as well, and as well some of the agencies these days now they are taking it more themselves now to make sure that their guys are well looked after. Certainly with us in front row, we would be looking to get these guys involved in industry, in a work experience, even capacity prior to their retirement at that level. So, but a lot of it goes back to the player themselves. I mean, if I had my time back there, and you know yourself, George, you've been in the professional game for a long time. I mean, there's so much dead time there. There's so much time where what you're doing here, you're presenting, and you're doing a good job of it, by the way.
Thanks, Frankie.
But like there's times that you were going through an airport that you could have been reading a book on something, or you could have been doing a little course on something, to working on a little diploma and upskilling all yourselves and all the time. And I feel that players both in rugby and soccer should be using that time. It's invaluable time. But I mean, how many times are you just there watching a movie or playing a hand of cards or just sipping a cup of coffee? I think you can do both. You can do a bit of that, but also to be conscious of making an effort to what you want to do eventually.
Looking at it from the soccer world, Frankie, I've come across a lot of dodgy agents in my time. A couple of times I've had agents looking for 10 grand that sent me for a trial, things like that when I was at Ipswich. Is there that kind of dodgy agents in rugby, or is there a ruling or whatever way they cope with it?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there is definitely some like that. I'm a member of I'm an RFU, which is a rugby, the English Rugby Football Union registered agency. And they do put pretty good regulation in place, and I think it's a very good idea, and we're trying to replicate it here in Ireland as well, because I haven't seen that. There's fees that are pretty standard in the industry, but what bugs me in the rugby industry certainly is that you have an agent who's looking after a guy's contract, who is initially does it because he is a friend of the family, or just does it as a favour. He might be an accountant or a solicitor, but they don't have the relevant context for when, for example, if George O'Callaghan is great and he goes up through the ranks with Cork City, but then Cork City or George don't want each other anymore, the next level for that guy, and some of these agents don't have the relevant context in the UK or France or further afield or wherever it is, and what happens in rugby, and I've seen it happen a lot of times, these guys fall out of the professional game because they lose time and their name doesn't get put out there, and they fall away. So I'd be very conscious of that, and plus, the other thing you mentioned earlier was the preparation for life after sport and all that, and I think an agent has a responsibility there to make sure that their guys are being looked after and they're doing all the right things, and to give the feedback that's not necessarily always positive. It might be a bit of a kick up the arse every so often, that you need to start doing this, or you need to start doing that, but not just blowing smoke up their arse all the time.
I've been in a couple of scrapes in my time, Frankie. Is there any time
Have you?
Yeah, a little couple, one or two. Is there ever a situation?
I'm surprised at that.
Is there ever a situation where you get a call from a player at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and go, Frankie, I'm in trouble here, you need to come bail me out of the bridewell or something?
No, I've never got one at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I've made a phone call around Christmas Eve to a player after hearing something back from a media a colleague that I have. Talk to this guy, he needs to talk to XYZ, and sort of it's worked the other way around. But it's not, I suppose a lot of the guys we have, I would give that service. I suppose being through the mill myself in rugby terms, and I've probably had every up, down and turnaround that you could have in rugby from on the field and off the field. I had different things that in the disciplinary side of things. So it's a case of young players will make mistakes. I guess you don't mind making a mistake once you don't make the same mistake twice, and just having the cop on and the reason to be able to get out of that and save a bit of face as well. So that's where we'd come in as well to try and help them. But it's thanks be to God now I haven't had too many of those phone calls anyway.
Frankie, just looking at the Heineken Cup before we finish up with you, who do you think is going to win it, and how do you think the Irish teams will progress in the next couple of rounds?
Well, from a Munster point of view, I think they couldn't have got a better draw away to Harlequins, and that's not taken from Harlequins. They're a very, very good side. Conor O'Shea has done a superb job with them, but here you have an opportunity of going over. It's only over in London. There's a lot of Irish over there, and you can be sure the Munster guys will get their hands on a lot of those tickets. I think it's 14,500. They've made a decision to have it in the Stoop as opposed to Twickenham, which I'm pretty astonished at, to be honest with you, from a commercial point of view. But I think that Munster have a great chance in that game, because you look at Paul O'Connell will be coming back around that time. You'll have O'Gara back. The ground will be harder. I think that'll suit their game a bit more. Ulster have a big game then against Saracens. So they're away to Saracens. If they can get through that game, they have a home semi-final. And of course, as we all know, the final is in the Aviva this year, which is a great card from an Irish point of view. To answer your question, who do I think will win it? If I had to make a decision today and now, I would be saying Claremont. I think these guys I've played against them over the years. They've lost something like 10 French league finals over the years, and they've only started winning. They won their first final there a couple of years ago. So for me, they're a team, and they've made it very open and public that they want to win the Heineken Cup this year. They beat the Leinster, the Heineken Cup champions, back-to-back this year. They are certainly the team to beat right now, but who knows, Ulster may have a chance if they can get through the quarter-final.
We know a lot of sensitive players, Frankie. I don't know if I get away with asking this one, but who would you have in your team, Sexton or O'Gara?
Goodbye.
I know you don't have to answer that one.
Well, they're two very good players. And
if I was you, I wouldn't answer it, because you know what Ronan's going to be like. No matter what you say, he's not going to be happy.
Of course, I'm going to pick Ronan. Ronan's my pal.
Frankie, thanks for coming on the show today. For everyone to get on your website, frontrow.ie, it's a fantastic website, and no doubt no better man looking after somebody than Frankie Sheehan. Which says thank you from all of us here on Feck TV for coming on. Cheers, fella.
Great stuff. Thanks, Georgie. Cheers. Lovely.
Thanks, Frankie. So that's the show tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can get us on at Feck TV on Twitter and also on the Facebook. Join us again next week for more of the top guests in Irish sport.